Hello. Welcome back to another episode of .NET Phillies. I'm your host with the most, Jared Roberts. Now, you might be asking, Jared, the camera looks a little different. At least the angle. I don't know if the quality is any better or different. I don't know. But I did some little bit of changes. I got a brand new light, as mentioned. The old one is in my closet back here. I got a new one that actually mounts to my desk, which is kind of like pretty cool. And with the stand that the light was on, I put my camera on there, so it's kind of like more of a direct thing instead of like an angled thing like it was before. So if you see me looking over here, you can kind of see it right there a little bit. My uh computer's right there. So if I'm looking over here, it's because I'm reading my notes and everything like that. So if you're wondering why is this idiot looking like this all the time, it's because my notes are right here. Before the camera was up, on top of my screen here, and I was able to kind of read the notes accordingly from there. Now, in today's episode, we have the series overview of the series against the Diamondbacks, the NLCS rematch, as well as the series that just wrapped up today against the Detroit Tigers, as well as John's hot takes. Some guys that I'm looking at, kind of marginal guys that might not cost you that much in terms of the trade deadline, because that's coming up. Some programming notes. We got Matt's Dude of the Week and a big series against the Miami Marlins. And I say big because you know how the Phillies are against the Marlins at any given point in their history. So, got a lot to get to today. It's going to be a really fun episode. But before we start, there is a programming note. I mentioned it in last week's episode, but I'm going to mention it again. There will be no episode next week. I'm going on vacation. I'm going into Florida. So there will be no pod tomorrow. No pod next week. It is going to be that following Wednesday. I just think it'll be good. We're going against the Braves and the Cubs and stuff like that. And I'll kind of try to post little updates in between just to, kind of keep everything active and make sure, I'm not dead and everything like that. So that's kind of what's going to be happening. So this will be the last episode until the second week in July, just because we're going on vacation, going down to Florida for a little bit. So I'm going to preemptively say this. I hope everybody has a very good and blessed 4th of July, celebrating the greatest country on earth, celebrating the Day of Independence and everything like that. Get drunk, get everything. We're actually going to Disney, which I love Disney. And I know I don't protrude myself as a person who loves Disney. However, I love it. Ashlyn and I and her family went a couple years ago, and I kind of talked about that because it was after the Phillies lost and I was away for a little bit. It's when they signed Taiwan, Strom, Turner, and I gave that story. It was kind of around then. So we're going for a day in the beginning of July. We're going to the greatest park, Epcot, because why isn't it? And I said, listen, I don't care what we do in terms of rides and everything. Now, there are 3 rides that we are going on that are musts. It's Guardians, it is Ratatouille, and it's Living with the Land. I don't understand the Living with that Land hate. I will ride or die for Living with the Land. I do not appreciate the Living with the Land hate. And so help me God. Okay. So help me God. I will come for anybody who comes for Living with the Land. Okay. Love that ride. It's great. We're also going to do Soarin'. We're going to drink around the road. It's going to be a good day. It's going to be a very long and busy day, but it's going to be a good day. I'm very excited to go with her. So that's where I'll be. I will be in Florida for a week. Like I said, I'll keep updated. If there's any breaking news or anything like that, and maybe I'll record a little thing on my phone in case there is any breaking news or anything like that. But I can't precede anything happening that would warrant me doing that. But if it happens, I'm going to be prepared. I have necessary things on me in order to get something out there to you guys. So do not worry about that. Now, moving into the episode here. A lot to break down. We had the NLCS rematch from last year, and it kind of brought back all of the bad memories that came along with the NLCS with the Phillies last year, because ultimately the Diamondbacks are not good. Like, they had 83 wins last year. Like they 2023 D backs. Um Series roster. What did they go last year? They finished 84 and 78 and made it to the World Series. They suck. They are not good, which what that's why that made the Phillies loss to them in the NLCS that much more brutal because the Phillies are the more talented team. And it was just like, come on, like seriously, like the Diamondbacks, it just brought back all the bad memories. It showed every ounce of the Phillies screwing it up in the NLCS because on Friday we had the Apple TV broadcast and on Sunday we had the Roku. So it was a lot of national media coverage, which I understand because as a rematch of the NLCS, it's kind of big, kind of first time meeting since then. So I understand the national attention to it. So we were able to hear T Mac and Kruk on Apple and T Mac on Sunday on the Roku broadcast as well. So it was really good to hear his voice all weekend. But then we get kind of to the games, and Taiwan Walker obviously was placed on the 15-day IL with a blister or something, good old Phantom IL for Taiwan. And it ultimately came down to like, what are we doing? It's Taiwan. And look, I know I said in the last episode my antenna was up for Taiwan. He pitched pretty well his past two starts, especially against the Orioles, that are a very good lineup. So my antenna was up for this game. I'm gonna go, okay. The game in London is against the Mets, and okay. And then you go against the Orioles and you pitch, pretty well against them. So now I'm like, okay, maybe he's figured something. No, 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 no. No, Taiwan. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, whatever. I forget what the saying is, but you fooled me, Taiwan. You got me. I was there believing in you, believing that you were going to do all the right things, and you took a step in the right direction. And boy, golly, was I wrong. You just get shelled by an awful Diamondbacks lineup. I mean, Jock Peterson is having a very good year. Corbin Carroll is a shell of his rookie of the year self. He's not been not great ultimately. You had, I mean, Cattell Martell. Cattell Marte rules. I think, in my opinion, he's one of the most underrated players in baseball currently. And it was just awesome to see. Not awesome, Jesus. I mean, Taiwan got shelled. I mean, he went. Where did he go? Let me go on Baseball Reference here. I should have this up. Professionalism, but he is just awful. Okay. Against the D-backs, he went 4 innings, 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. Bad. Just bad. He's just not a very good pitcher. He's never been a very good pitcher. And he's getting paid a lot of money. In 10 starts, he has a 5.60 ERA. It's, and I understand Turnbull is injured right now with right shoulder soreness. So, Turnbull looked very good in the 3 innings we had today in Detroit. Shocker that Taiwan Walker, or excuse me, shocker that Spencer Turnbull is better than Taiwan Walker. That is to surprise of, sarcastically, nobody. Everybody and their mother knew that Taiwan Walker sucked, except for the Phillies, who trotted him out there for 2 months and 10 starts to a 5.6 ERA. And I think it's ultimately hilarious that the fact that he went up against the Diamondbacks and got shelled when he was all pissy and moany that he didn't get the pitch in the NLCS last year. Well, buddy, here's what would have happened. And mind you, that was, I wouldn't say a much better team, but they were hot. I mean, they made it to the World Series, for God's sake. So ultimately, they were a better team last year. And here's Topper going, here's your chance to prove it. Go ahead, go out there, buddy. And you failed miserably. And I loved, and I don't know. So, I think a lot of Phillies fans' opinion, this is a Phantom IL stint. And for those of you who don't know what a Phantom IL stint is, a Phantom IL stint is basically when the player is not injured, but they make up an injury. That way they are off the roster for a couple weeks and they can kind of figure some stuff out. In my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, this is exactly what they're doing with Taiwan Walker right now. So we'll see what happens and becomes of him. I have no idea, but take your time, buddy. Take your time. They had a pretty short leash on him. And now, and getting back to my original point with that, 4 innings, he was not at a lot of pitches. They easily could have just trotted him out there again, but they didn't. They went with Turnbull for 3 innings, and Turnbull, shocking, looked great. But it was very interesting. And I don't know if they were kind of setting him up to go on the Phantom IL. Like this was a like a pre game chat being like, hey, like see how this goes. We might put you on the IL just to give you a break for a little bit, see if you can figure some stuff out. I really don't know if that was the plan because I've never seen him have this short of a leash. Usually he's out there too long. 4 innings, gets pulled. Topper talks about if he's healthy, and I think it's very funny that Taiwan was like, "Oh, I'm 100% healthy," and then the next day he's on the IL with a blister, which is very very funny. And someone posted the the scene from Goodfellas. Spoiler alert for Goodfellas if you haven't seen that movie. The scene when Joe Pesci walks before Joe Pesci gets whacked and he walks into the room and it's just like that shot of him walking in and just oh no, and then he gets shot. Pretty much. You know what I'm talking about. Shout out Goodfellas, great movie. But it ultimately felt like that's where it was headed. Now they're in a bit of a pickle right now because Spencer Turnbull was removed today with shoulder soreness. And this is kind of the thing we were worried about because we said as fans, like, yeah, he hasn't pitched a lot of innings, but can we please let the wheels fall off prior to pulling him out of the rotation? Well, the wheels fell off and now Taiwan's out. Right now they're in a position where they line up where they have an off day on Monday so they can skip that fifth starter spot and not really skip a beat. Now, Topper did say post game that it would be Michael Mercado would be the next man up, and we'll get to Mercado making his major league debut. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see if what he's got. I mean, I'm a big fan of Michael Mercado. They kind of stole him from the Rays a little bit. Was great in AAA, looked great in his major league debut over this past week. So I'm interested to see what they're going to get out of Michael Mercado. If they decide that that Turnbull's going to miss a significant amount of time, which I definitely could see. But before I get ahead of myself, I want to look at that Diamondback series again. They lose game one. You had that missed opportunity with Bryce with the bases loaded and 1 out, and he grounded into that double play. He also gave the Haktu on second base, which is objectively hilarious, but I'm kind of a little tired of seeing that meme. I think it's a little too centralized at this point. So maybe enough of the Haktu memes going out there. So then we get to Saturday's game, and the Phillies were pissed because they knew they should have won that game against the Diamondbacks on Friday, and they just absolutely beat the hell out of them. Bryce had a homer. Casty had a homer. Bomer had a homer. It was just mash city. They were hitting runners in scoring position. The one thing I talked about a little bit, and people kind of called me crazy a little bit. I'm a little not worried's the wrong word, but my antenna's up again for Zach Wheeler. It just seems like he's having a hard time finishing batters off. And it seems like he's laboring a little bit. Like, I don't know. Like, it just feels like his past 2 starts, he hasn't been as sharp and as just dominant. Now, I say that, and he threw 7 innings, 1 run against the Diamondbacks, and I'm talking about him being bad. So I think that's just a testament to how good Zach Wheeler has been. Now, it's just something to keep an eye on. It just something about that D-back start and obviously the Orioles start, he was off a little bit. Just something is just a little off with him. I can't really put my nose on it, what it is. Just something to keep note of, just something to kind of be like, maybe that's something there. I pray to God nothing's wrong because dear God, that would be a disaster for this Phillies team right now. But just something to keep an eye out when it pertains to Zach Wheeler. Now moving on to Sunday's game. Sunday was the Roku game, which I thought was certainly a choice. It certainly was something having the game on Roku. The first 4 innings just simply did not work for me. Mind you, I was out with Ashlyn. I went to breakfast with her, and I was trying to get the game on my phone because I'm a sick individual and I want to watch it while I'm out with my beautiful girlfriend. But what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So it didn't work, and I thought it was just the connection. Turns out, no, everybody was having the same damn issue. But when we got home, we were able to watch the rest of it. And, I mean, you got to give it up to the hero of this game was David Dahl. I mean, mind you, Chris Sanchez threw the hell of a game, 7 shut against them. And David Dahl, had that big hit late to score those 2 runs. So I love David Dahl, big David Dahl guy. We had the announcement with Cole Hamels' retirement on, shit, I didn't mean to curse. You didn't hear me say that. My my feet are hitting my camera right now, so that's why it's a little screwy. I might switch up the settings here a little bit. But that's a future problem, everybody, making sure everything is still on and sounding great, and it is. Um, Coming back to the Cole Hamels retirement and with David Dahl, apparently, so obviously David Dahl wore 35 up until this Friday. He went to the Phillies front office and went to the higher ups and said, "Hey, I want to switch my number out of respect for Cole Hamels." Him and Cole actually rehabbed together in when they were with the Padres organization. So I think that was just a class act from David Dahl, just cementing him in good dude. It just seems like the best guy. Seems like he's always there for his teammates, ready to ride or die for them. So that was a really, really nice gesture from David Dahl. He had that big hit late to score those 2 runs. You then had Harper. Harper had Harper. Yeah, he had a home run in that game. Yeah, to 4-0 going into the ninth. It got a little shaky there. Jeff Hoffman, he didn't pitch in a few days, so I kind of give him the benefit of the doubt there. And he looked really good today against the Tigers. So Jeff Hoffman was able to shut the door down. As I was getting a little nervous because it was 4-1, and Christian Walker of all people were coming up, and they kept talking about Christian Walker's mom's meatballs, and I really, really want her meatballs because I'm an Italian. I love meatballs. I'm a slut for a good meatball. And from the looks of it and from the sounds of it, they look like they're really, really good. So, Christian Walker's mom, if you're watching this, hook your boy up with some meatballs. All right. So the Phillies took 2 out of 3. They annoying loss on Friday, but fortunately they were able to salvage the series, win 2 out of 3 at home against the Diamondbacks to kind of not absolve them of their sins of the NLCS, but definitely felt a little better being like, okay, yeah, if anything, maybe it felt a little worse because it's like, damn, we've really lost to this team of all teams. But regardless, in the past, whatever, we have our sights set on something else this year. Moving on to the Tigers series, the Phillies also won 2 out of 3. They won game 1 and 3. Game 1, they just kind of mashed a little bit. They hit around the Casey Mize 4 runs in the first inning with a Bryce Harper double as well as an Alec Boehm 2-run home run. Harper then ripped a 3-run home run late to kind of give the Phillies some breathing room. And Nola bounced back huge. He kind of ran into a bit of trouble in that Padres series in his last start, kind of hit that wall. Didn't really do that in this start. I mean, 7 innings, 1 run, excellent from Aaron Nola. Exactly what you expect from your second ace, your co-ace, the guy you paid a ton of money to, and a guy who's ultimately going to be the second greatest or potentially the greatest Philly of all time. Pitching-wise. Obviously, Carlton's won, and a list of everybody else fighting for it. But ultimately, Nola's going to be up there, and a lot of Phillies fans don't really want to hear that, but ultimately that's where we're at. I mean, that's exactly what's going to happen. So Nola was really good. We also got to see the major league debut of Michael Mercado, which was very, very good to see. That was awesome to see that. 25 years old. He's listed at 6'4". That guy's not 6'4". They kind of talked about it on the broadcast a little bit. That guy's like 6'7", 6'6", 6'7". That guy's a big dude. And like I mentioned, he could kind of slide into that starting spot. God forbid if Spencer Turnbull is out long term, they have that option in Michael Mercado. We got to have this conversation about Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper could potentially have one of the quietest MVP race, or excuse me, let me pull up his numbers. So Bryce Harper could possibly have one of the quietest MVPs in recent memory. Like right now, obviously he won the MVP in 2021 with the Phillies, where he hit 309 with a 1044 OPS, 35 home runs, 84 RBIs, wins the MVP. This year, so far, 74 games, he's hitting 306 with a 992 OPS and 20 home runs. It's going to ultimately, if he keeps this up, it's going to come down between him and Shohei Ohtani. And there's a take about Shohei Ohtani, and it's Bryce Harper. Like, I understand Ohtani and what he's doing, but if Shohei Ohtani, it doesn't hit 350 with 60 home runs, it has to be Bryce Harper, because defense matters when you're looking at the most valuable player on both sides of the ball. And right now, Shohei is just hitting, mind you, at an insane rate. I'm not trying to discourage Shohei Ohtani. I think he's the best baseball player in the league right now, but the most valuable player comes with offense and defense. That is why we haven't seen a DH ever win the MVP. And that's why you have awards like the Silver Slugger. Give him the Silver Slugger if you want to give him the Silver Slugger. But ultimately, in my opinion, call me biased, Bryce Harper should win his third MVP this season as of June 26, 2024. I mean, he's just raking. Like the guy can't be stopped. He's just nobody is really talking about him being a real MVP candidate. It was Ohtani, even Ozuna, even though he's a piece of garbage. He should be touched nowhere near the MVP. I don't care if he hits 400 with 70 home runs. That guy should never win the MVP because he is a piece of garbage. It was obviously Mookie before he went down, and I've seen Ketel Marte's name kind of float around. Fernando Tatis is also having a very good season, so it could look like it's going to come down to Ohtani and Harper. And like I said, my opinion, and call me biased, it should be Bryce Harper bringing home his third MVP this season as of today. Um, Going to game two, we had a marquee pitching matchup. You had Ranger Suarez for the Phillies, and you have Tarek Skubal going against Ranger for the Detroit Tigers. Unfortunately, Ranger kind of hit a hiccup in the seventh inning or sixth inning or seventh inning, one of those innings. He gave up 4 runs, 3 of them earned, and honestly, they should be like 2 earned because Trey made that error. And the bats were just kind of cold. They were getting shut down by Skubal. He was the Cy Young Award favorite in the American League. He's pitched very well, so I'm not surprised that ultimately it was whoever makes the first mistake is going to win that game. And unfortunately, that was Ranger. And the Harper, speaking of, hit another home run, his 20th of the year last night in the ninth inning to hopefully try to rally something, but against did not ultimately lead to anything. Looking at kind of well, here, let me talk about today. Today just took care of business. You had Marshy went 4 for 4, 3 singles, 4 RBIs. Had a 2-run home run, his first since April. So Marshy looks to be getting back on track. You had Spencer Turnbull went the first 3 innings, then obviously went out with the injury, and the Phillies bullpen picked him up. I mean, they had to pitch 4, 5. They had to pitch 6 innings. I don't know why I just counted that, but math was never my strong suit. They had to pitch 6 innings, and they shut down. I mean, mind you, the ninth inning got a little shaky, but you shut down a Tigers offense. I mean, an entire bullpen. It was every guy. You started with Soto. Soto, dominated. You then had Ruiz. Then you went to Ruiz, Soto fourth, Ruiz fifth, Strom sixth, Kirkring seventh, Hoffman 8, Alvarado 9. Dogs. Just shut them down. Boom, 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 boom. Take care of business. Bam, 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 bam. It was good to see that the offense, was clicking on all cylinders. So it's good to see, especially with Harper being as good as he's been. Trey is scuffling a little bit, but I expected that. Schwarber's still killing it. Bohm is still killing it. And now you have Marshy heating up, maybe Stott's heating up a little bit. But kind of getting to the bad here. Christian Pache and Whit Merrifield are awful at the bottom of that lineup, especially when you're rolling out. Marchand, he's shown flashes, but not really consistent, and I don't really expect him to be consistent, mostly because he is still only 20-some years old. He's not exactly a guy that's going to tear the cover off the ball right now, and has that potential to, of course, and I expect him to kind of be in a larger deal for whomever. Pache is just, oh my God, I'm sorry. Christian Pache is legitimately awful. He is a career 177 hitter. He is just awful, awful, awful. How is he hitting? Oh, that's his OBP. He's hitting 195 with a 567 OPS, 0 home runs, 8 RBIs in 40 games. It's not very good. I kind of see why Oakland kind of, was like, nah, you know what? We're not going to touch you. Ultimately, they have a decision to make. Do they try to trade him? Do they DFA him? Because he doesn't provide anything other than fine defense. A guy who's currently in AAA, who's currently raking actually in AAA, can do the same thing Christian Pache does. I don't know what we're doing there. Whit Merrifield, I hate to say it, but he is Josh Harrison. Unfortunately, that's just kind of the way it's gone so far. Unfortunately, he has turned into Josh Harrison. And yeah, especially when you have a guy in Cody Clemens who's just still raking in AAA. He's healthy, still raking down in AAA. He should be up here over Whit Merrifield and Christian Pache. Or excuse me, he should be up here over Christian Pache, meaning Johan Rojas. So I don't know. Now coming to look at Spencer Turnbull's injury. Now, if this warrants um an uh, injured list visit, now you have some options internally, and I think everybody knows where I'm going with this. You could call up Mick Abel. I mean, Mick Abel, yes, has struggled mightily in AAA, but this could be your chance to kind of show him off to potential teams like, hey, he can get major league pitching out. Be good thing to see kind of what he can do. It'll be interesting to see if they make that move, if Turnbull has to miss time. Obviously, if he doesn't, they can just kind of shelf him, have Mercado step in. Unfortunately, they'd be down a bullpen arm at that point, so it might almost be worth it to kind of put him on the IL, even if it's 10 days, to kind of have that extra arm, whether that be Abel, maybe it's Junior Marte, maybe he comes back up, or anything like that. So be interested to see what they do with Turnbull when it comes to that. A name that I have seen floated around. So a couple guys that people aren't really talking about when it pertains to um could be kind of fringe guys who the Phillies kind of look at to get better kind of in the margins as we've kind of seen them did. Now, mind you, I believe they're going to make a big splash at the deadline. I think this is the first time where Dave Dombrowski is like, okay, this team's good. We know this team's good. This is what the glaring issue is, which is an outfield bat, and we're going to make that move. Now, I'm talking about kind of a marginal move that could kind of push the Phillies over the edge when it pertains to the starting pitching side. And I'm talking about Zach Eflin, old buddy Zach Eflin. Let's get him back on the Phillies. Currently, he's not having the best year. He is currently in 14 games in 81 and a third, has a 4.20 ERA. So hasn't necessarily been great, but the Rays, they kind of maybe want to shed some payroll. Maybe they're going to be sellers at the deadline. Why not go out there and get Zach Eflin? Because he's going to get traded. Zach Eflin, I'm willing to bet anything in the world that he is going to get traded. So why not bring him back home? Why not have him back with the Phillies? He can start, he can close, he can be a reliever, kind of a Swiss Army knife, and you'll probably have to eat some of that contract, but it's only a year and a half. I think you can maybe swing it. Maybe bring Zach Eflin home. Just an idea, Dombo. Just an idea. Another name, another former Phil that has kind of been floated around. And when I say floated around, I mean I just kind of talk. Oh, for God's sakes. I just kind of talked about it today. Another former Phil, a guy who's having an okay year. Not having the worst year in the world. I want to see his splits real quick to either solidify or, no matter what the splits are, I'm still going to stand by this. Batting splits 2024. All right. Well, I'm still going to stand by this. What about Andrew McCutchen coming back to Philly to be that outfield bench bat that we have been so dire to? And I know what you're thinking. Jared, Andrew McCutchen is 39 years old. I'm talking about vibes. I'm talking about I trust him coming off the bench and mashing against the lefty. I trust him in the lineup over Christian Pache right now. And honestly, I don't think it's that close. I trust Kutch to come up with a clutch hit. I trust Andrew McCutchen to kind of come up and rake, again, and he meshes well with this team. He matches the vibe of this team. He was the vibes guy when he was here prior to him leaving in 2021. He was the vibes guy. And now you bring him back. He knows Bryce. He knows JT. He knows Bomer. He knows Nola, Wheeler. He knows these guys. It's not like he's a foreign face, and everybody loves Kutch. Everybody loves Andrew McCutchen. So why not? Why not bring back Andrew McCutchen? See, it probably won't cost you much. See if you can bring him back home. Bring him back home. I know he's already home in Pittsburgh, but bring Daddy back home. Just an idea. Just an idea to bring back Andrew McCutchen to the Phillies. So moving on to John's hot takes. We got some steamy ones in here. One I kind of already touched on, but his first hot take of the day. Chris Stapleton is the most overrated country artist. I myself am not much of a country fan. I know my family is. I know a lot of people that would disagree with that. But in John's opinion, Chris Stapleton is the most overrated country artist that we have here today. Don't really know why. He didn't really elaborate. I asked him to elaborate because I like to kind of help him out, kind of see his side. However, he didn't do that for me today. So that's it. This one I don't think is necessarily much of a hot take. Sorry, my camera's moving a little bit. This one I don't necessarily view as much of a hot take, more as it's just kind of the truth. Carlos Ruiz was the most important Philly during the 2007 to 2011 run. The reason I say that, and I agree with them, I don't think this is much of a hot take. To some people it is, because you're like, oh, well, Utley, Rollins, Howard, Hamels, Lee, Halliday, all those guys. Yes, very important. Nobody was more important to that pitching staff that was so good with the four aces, the Bridge to Lidge, Brad Lidge, all those great arms that we had. What do they all have in common? They threw to Carlos Ruiz. I don't know if was I making this podcast at this point? I don't know if I am, but a few summers ago, I actually read the Todd Zalecki book, documenting the life of Roy Halladay. And Roy Halladay was kind of like crazy in a good way, crazy in a way that he was a creature of habit. He's like, I'm directing this game. This is how it's going to be. When he's talking to his catchers, he says, if I want to throw this pitch, don't disagree with me on this. This is how it's going to be. He was like that his entire career, up until he came to Philly and caught with Carlos Ruiz. He said for the first time in his career, Chooch was guiding him through a game, that Doc trusted him to make the right call. He talked about it in depth regarding his perfect game in Miami in 2010. He also talked about it a lot when he threw the no-hitter against the Reds that same year. Now, nobody is more important than Chooch during that time. I mean, you have a Hall of Fame you have a Hall of Fame pitcher talking about this guy, this Carlos Ruiz, that might be the most underrated player that the Phillies had during the 2007 to 11 run. And he's like, I trusted him with my life. Every guy that has worked with Chooch loves the way Chooch calls a game. So, in my opinion, in John's opinion, he was the most important Philly during that 07 to 11 run. And his last hot take, we kind of talked about this a little bit. Shohei Ohtani should not be eligible to win the MVP. I agree, unless he does something absolutely insane, meaning hitting 350 with 60 home runs, then yes, give him the MVP. But right now, Bryce and Shohei, this race is going to be awesome. Bryce Harper, the golden child, the chosen one, going for his third MVP against the superstar Shohei Ohtani in his first year with the Dodgers. And now, what I think, I don't, this is going to be tough for me to guide this, what I'm about to say here, but I'm going to say it anyway. Shohei has dealt with controversy this year when it came to the gambling stuff, and obviously Ipe, is responsible for that, and there was the evidence to prove that Shohei was innocent during this whole thing. And there's controversy revolving that is Shohei, was he actually involved during this entire time? And now I think it's probably not going to cloud the judgment of the voters. That's just the reality of it. But maybe it plays a little bit into Harper's favor that maybe that controversy will come up. I don't know. Again, I'm not wishing that. I'm not hoping that. I just think having Shohei versus Bryce Harper is going to be awesome to see in an MVP race. And like I said, my vote is for Bryce Harper all day, every day. Bryce, Bryce, Bryce. The Bryce is right, baby. Now moving on to Matt's dude of the week. Speaking of catchers, Matt's dude of the week, Brian Schneider. Remember Brian Schneider on the Phillies? Elite backup catcher was the quote that Matt gave me when it pertained to Brian Schneider. So Brian Schneider played from 2000 to 2012, played 8 years with the Washington Nationals and Montreal Expos, then went to the Mets for 2 years, and then with the Phillies from 2010 to 2011. When he was with the Nationals, played 13 seasons. Kind of was the backup in 2000 to 2002, then became the full-time starter with them. So in 8 years, 757 games, batted 252 with a 700 OPS, hit 47 home runs in that time. So not bad, like really at all. 700 OPS over an 8-year stretch is pretty good, especially for a catcher. Pretty good. Then went to the Mets for 2 years, 169 games, hit 244 with a 680 OPS. Then spent 3 years with the Phillies, 122 games, backing up Carlos Ruiz, 212 with a 622 OPS. Pretty good, Brian Schneider. Shout out to Brian Schneider. Love that guy. I think he. Why do I feel like he like works in the Phillies organization? Hold on, Brian Schneider. I'm looking him. He was traded for Lastings Millage. That's a name. 2 year. Okay. Okay, that's what it was. So February 7th, 2020, Brian Schneider was named quality control coach for the New York Mets, succeeding Luis Rojas, who became the manager of the Mets, who was named Mets manager in January 2020. Following the 2022 season, him and the Mets parted ways. Uh, so I thought he was in the Phillies organization for some reason, but I guess not. But yeah, Brian Schneider, elite backup catcher. Love Brian Schneider. Always had a wad in his mouth of chewing tobacco. Guy was a great catcher. So to close things out today, we have the series preview against the Miami Marlins starting tomorrow night. It's a 4-game series. We have the return of the Baby Blues finally. It feels like it's been a minute since we've seen the Phillies playing the Baby Blues. We have Zach Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, Aaron Nola, and oh, I screwed that up completely. We have Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez, Aaron Nola, and Ranger Suarez going in this series against the Marlins. They have yet to name their starters. And those are the projected starters. Obviously, everybody but Turnbull. Take care of business. I mean, 3 or 4 sweep. They can do it. This Marlins team is not very good. Left-handed Josh Bell looms, however. Left-handed Josh Bell is still on that team. He is still disgusting, and I hate Josh Bell. But damn it, I respect him. Just take care of business. You know what we got to do. 3 or 4 sweep. And yeah, then that's basically it. I mean, just take care of business. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. I appreciate everybody with their support. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe, like, and follow all socials down below. However, like I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, I'm going to reiterate again, there will be no episode next week. I will be on vacation. The episode will be coming out instead on the 10th of July. That'll be our next episode. I know that seems so far away, but I promise you it won't be that bad without me. And if there's any breaking news or anything like that, like I said, I will be on it like stink on poop. Obviously, I didn't want to use that word, but we don't curse on this podcast. So if you guys, like I said, thank you guys for everything. Like, subscribe, follow socials down below. And I will see you guys after the 4th of July. Be safe out there. Don't be too stupid. Don't get too hammered. Don't eat too much. Stay safe and stay blessed. And you guys, see you.